Today we're going to continue our study of tenths. Yesterday we were reading and writing tenths in decimal and fractional form, and we're going to continue that today, but we're going to be looking at a few situations where we've got some improper fractions, and what would that look like as a decimal. And then we're also going to talk about place value today, so we're going to give the value of digits according to their place. So at the end, you'll be able to write a decimal for a given fraction, even if it's an improper fraction, and you'll be able to give the value of digits. So with decimals, we are talking about numbers that contain a decimal point and numbers to the right of the decimal point. We're still going to focus on tenths for today, just to make sure we have a firm understanding of tenths and what the value of tenths are. So thinking back to what we learned, if I'm looking at this shaded region and I want to write it in both decimal and fractional forms, I would say that 3/10 of this figure is shaded. What would that look like as a decimal? 0.3, also read 3/10. How about this model? I've got 1 whole and 2/10 of another. What would that look like as a decimal? You've got it, 1.2, or 1 and 2/10. So a reminder that tenths, I can think of it or visualize it in any of these formats. Maybe you like visualizing circles, maybe you like visualizing bars, and maybe you like visualizing number lines. But the thing I want to point out here is that there are 10/10 in every whole, right? So if I were to count from 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10. Once I get to 10/10, I have 1 whole. If this number line were to continue, technically here I would have 11/10, 12/10 if I'm thinking tenths. And we learned about these the other day as being improper fractions, where the numerator is larger than the denominator. What would that look like as decimals then? If I've got 10/10, that means I have 1 whole. If I've got 11/10, that would mean 1 and 1 more tenth. How about 12/10? 1 whole and 2/10 of the next. So something to keep in mind in your head as far as visuals go when we're talking about improper fractions and decimals. Another way I can think of it or look at it is in what we would call place value charts. So if I've got the ones place here with 2 markers, then I would say that has a value of 2, and where this black line goes would be the decimal. And then let's see, 5, 6, 7/10. So I would write that 2.7 or 2 and 7/10. Now over here, I'm counting up, let's see, 5, 10, 13. I've got 13/10. Now, how would I write that as a decimal? Well, we just saw in the previous slide as a reminder that every 10/10 equals 1 whole. So really, I've got 1 whole and then 3/10 of another. So this is 1 and 3/10 as a decimal, 1.3, 1 and 3/10. So I'm always thinking of tens or groups of tens. So measuring this ladybug, the length of this ladybug here, if I'm dealing with centimeters, I'm again working with tenths. So it looks like here that ladybug is 9/10 of a centimeter. As a decimal, 9/10 it would look like. How about this beetle? Well, it's more than 1. And it looks like it's 4 centimeters more than 1. So this beetle, we could say, is 14/10 of centimeters, which really means 10/10 and 4/10 of another. So we would, as a decimal point, we would say that is 1 whole and 4/10 of another. 1 and 4/10 centimeters. If I read this number, I would say I have 9/10. If I read this number, I would say I have 7/10. How about this number? How many tenths are in 1 and 1/10? Remember to think about tenths. This 1 is 10/10, and this one is 1/10. So if I have 1 and 1/10, we actually have 11/10. What do I have here? How many tenths do I have here? If I have 4 wholes, that means we've got 4 sets of 10, right? 4 wholes. Plus 3/10 of another. So what have we got total here? 10, 20, 30, 40, plus 3, 43/10. So if I have 43/10, another way I could look at it would be like this: 43/10. 4 wholes and 3/10 of another. If we are thinking of place value now, so giving the value of digits according to their place, that takes us back to place value charts. So we've worked with these before with ones, tens, hundreds, and so on. Now we'll also be thinking about it going towards the right of the decimal point in tenths. So there's different ways that our materials will ask us questions about this. So we see a place value chart here with tens, ones, and tenths. And down below, it's showing that if I've got the number 42.3, we have 4 tens, 2 ones, and 3/10 because of their places. This second row is showing the value of each of those amounts. If I have 4 tens, I've got 40. If I have 2 ones, that has a value of 2. And if I have 3/10, that has a value of 0.3. This bottom row shows those same values. So this, we could say, this number, 42.3, is now written in expanded form. Expanded form is expanding a number out by taking each of its digits and showing their value. What would that look like here with 76 and 4/10? Moving from left to right, we have how many tens, how many ones, and how many tenths. So now what would their values be? 7 tens has a value of 70. 6 ones has a value of 6. 4 tenths has the value of 0.4 or 4 tenths. This is expanded form of 76.4, giving the value of each of those digits according to their place. Now here, we just have to look at the wording in these situations. In 49 and 8 tenths, the digit blank is in the tenths place. Which of these digits is in the tenths place? Did you say 8? Next one, in 95 and 6 tenths, the digit 5 stands for. Stands for means value. What is the value of that 5? Did you say 5? Because it's in the ones place, it has a value of 5. The next one, in 50 and 2 tenths, the value of the digit 0 is 0. And in 92 and 9 tenths, there are 2 digits 9. So what do they stand for, or what are their values? This first 9, what place is it in? And therefore, what's its value? And this second 9, what place is it in? And therefore, what's its value? Here we can see the directions are find the missing words or numbers, all thinking about places or values. So number 21 here, the digit 7 is in the, we would answer with ones place. The digit 3 stands for or has the value of 30. The value of the digit 5 is 5 tenths, or 5 tenths is its value. So here today, third graders, we've continued our study of tenths, and really what we've been doing is looking at more situations in which we're writing tenths in decimal and fractional forms. Sometimes looking at improper fractions and writing those as decimals as well. And that really takes an understanding of value of tenths. Tenths are tenths. Every time I get 10 tenths, I have a whole. So that's something to keep in mind. And then also looking at place value, so the value of digits according to their place. So a couple different things for practice today that you can choose from. There's a Quizlet. There's only about 5 terms in it, but a Quizlet to study some decimal terms. And then this tenths game is the same game as yesterday. So if that was helping you think about looking at these numbers, writing numbers in decimals, play that again to really firm your understanding of decimals. And then when you're done, to show your understanding today, go back to Seesaw. There's another activity to complete where you are showing your understanding of these skills.